Hi, boys and girls. This is Unit 2, Animal Classification, and we're in Lesson 7, and we're reading Chapter 8 in your reader today. So go ahead and get out your reader and open up to Chapter 8, Tree Frogs. In this lesson, this is the first part, we're going to read two texts. We're going to read two chapters from your reader. One is about tree frogs and the other is about poison dart frogs. And we're going to take notes as we read the text. At the end of the lesson, actually tomorrow, we're going to focus on comparing and contrasting the two types of frogs that we read about. So find the chapter Tree Frogs, Chapter 8, in your student reader. Next, take out a piece of paper or your composition book. You should have gotten a composition book in your materials, and draw a line down the center. If you're just using a loose piece of paper, you could fold it in half like that. We call that a hot dog fold. On the left side, you're going to write tree frogs. And on the right side, you're going to write poison dart frogs. So let's start with pages 66 and 67. Follow along as I read. And what we want to listen to for is, what do we learn about tree frogs on these pages? As you have learned, amphibians and vertebrates that spend part of their lives in water. Let me start that again, sorry. As you have learned, amphibians are vertebrates that spend part of their lives in water and part of their lives on land. They start out like fish because they are born with gills and can breathe underwater. They later develop lungs so they can breathe air and live on land. Tree frogs are one type of amphibian. They are different from most amphibians because they spend most of their lives in trees. The American green tree frog can be found in most parts of southeastern United States. So that's Florida, Georgia, Alabama, southeast. A typical American tree frog is only about 2 inches long, so they are pretty small. But they can be loud if there are a few hundred of them gathered together. And then on page 67, you see the picture that's here, an American tree frog, green frog. So what are some things that we learned on these pages? We're going to write phrases and facts. Okay, so you're going to want to write amphibians. They are amphibians. And I want you to write very neatly. You need to write neatly. They spend most of their time in trees, and they're about 2 inches long. You must have those 3 facts. If you found something else, you can write it down, but you must have those 3. And they can be loud if there's lots of them together. Let's move on to pages 68 and 69. Follow along as I read and think about what new information we learn on this page. If you live in the southern United States near water and lots of trees, your summer nights may be filled with the gentle chirps of tree frogs. American tree frogs range in color from lime green to yellow. A tree frog's most distinct characteristic is its long toes with suction cups. The suction cups allow a tree frog to cling to and climb anything. A tree frog can even stick to a window. Tree frogs like to stay in the trees, so you are more likely to hear them instead of see them. They will leave the trees to lay eggs. They are most likely to come down to the ground after a heavy rain, when everything is nice and wet. And there's the picture from page 69. This tree frog's long toes with suction cups help it climb this branch. So what do you think are some things we're going to write down on our notes page from reading 68 and 69? One thing we should write down is that they have a range of colors, and you're going to continue under the list that you already started, writing neatly and small. You can't write enormous. They have suction cups on their toes. That's one of their biggest unique characteristics. And they leave trees to lay their eggs. So they don't lay their eggs in the trees. They leave the trees to do that. Go ahead, pause the video and write those things down if you need to, and come on back when you're ready to continue. Let's look at pages 70 and 71. Again, we're listening for new information, big ideas. If you do see one, don't worry. They are pretty friendly. They are easy to catch too. If you catch one, it might sit on your hand or crawl around on your back. You will probably only find them at night because they are nocturnal. This means they sleep during the day and are active at night. They eat small insects such as crickets, moths, and other nocturnal insects. Like other amphibians, American green tree frogs lay their eggs in or near the water. Most of them like to lay their eggs very close to the water, but not quite in it. Their favorite place is on a tree limb or leafy branch that has fallen into a pond. And there's the picture from page 71. The American green tree frog is nocturnal. That sounds like it's an important thing for us to write down, doesn't it? We also learned they are friendly, easy to catch, and nocturnal. So make sure you have those notes written down. Our last two pages, pages 72 and 73, again, we're going to be listening for three important things that we think we should write down on our chart. Different kinds of tree frogs have been around since long before the dinosaurs roamed the earth. You can find many different types of tree frogs in parts of North and South America, Europe, and Southeast Asia. This is a red-eyed tree frog, which you can find in Mexico and much of Central America. Most tree frogs prefer a fairly warm, wet climate. If you live in a place with tree frogs, consider yourself lucky. In the summer, you can fall asleep each night listening to the steady song of a tree frog orchestra. And there's this type of tree frog, lives in Mexico and Central America. So the three most important things, what do you think they are? They've been around for a long time. They live on different continents, so they're not all in the same place. And they prefer a warm, wet climate. Let's take a look at some pictures of the tree frog. There's one. There he is. Look at those eyes. And the blue coloring on its legs and belly. Those suction cups on its toes. And here is a map showing you where they live. So right in here is where they're really concentrated. Central America and parts of the southern parts of Mexico. So you can see this, and also up here in the northwestern part of South America they live. All right, boys and girls, make sure that you have all of the notes written down, and you will be submitting these so that I can make sure that you have everything nicely and neatly written. And then we're going to move on and do chapter 9 together.